Good morning and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This event is hosted and organized by Silent Scream Foundation, a nonprofit organization in Ghana that works in the field of mental health care access, awareness, and destigmatization of mental health issues. Today's event is a mental health awareness training on the topic Dementia, Symptoms and Management. We are joined again by Mr. Richard Obeng-Yentwi, a nurse educator at the Pantine Hospital in Accra. His talk today is informed by his years of hands-on experience in the field of mental health care provision and education. He has joined us previously to discuss topics such as bipolar disorder. Kindly note that the session will be recorded so that it can be revisited by participants in the future. It will also be made available to those who are not able to join us today. Please remember to keep your mics muted to avoid disruption so that we can hear our speaker clearly. Kindly take note of all questions that will come up while he is presenting. Please type any questions in the chat for Mr. Obeng-Yentwi so that they can be collated and presented to him. And you can type it in the general chat, or you can type it directly to the Silent Scream account if you want to remain anonymous. Finally, this event, like all the previous ones, is made possible by the work of the Silent Scream Foundation. You can visit our website at silentscreamfoundation.org. You can also find us on social media platforms such as Facebook and LinkedIn at Silent Scream Foundation. Visiting our sites and sharing what we do allows us to reach a wider audience to spread this to more people who will need it. And also learn more about the work that we do and how you can access the resources that we provide. So please make sure to like and share with people that you know will find it beneficial. Thank you once again for joining us, and we hope to have an enjoyable and informative session. Mr. Richard, please, you can begin.
Okay, thank you so much. This morning, I've joined you to discuss something quite unique. It's unique because most of we Africans don't really understand how it operates. So the condition we are about to discuss is dementia. For the sake of time, we'll be hammering more on the symptoms and then the management, because that's where we fall short as a people. So we almost always forget things. Everybody forgets something. And many a times when we are growing more older, we tend to forget more things as we age. Many older people have a slight loss of memory over time. And we usually assume it to be normal. But when the memory loss gets worse, then we tend to think about dementia. Usually dementia gets worse over time when we age. So from age 55, 60 upwards. For how long this takes is different for each person. Some people stay the same for years and others lose much skills quickly. Your chance of having dementia rise, as I mentioned earlier, as we grow older. But it doesn't necessarily always mean that the person will have dementia, or the person who is getting old will get dementia. Some people grow old and they don't get dementia. And we are saying that dementia is not merely a problem of memory loss, just because people are getting old and forgetting things, but it is their inability to learn, their inability to reason, and then retain past experiences or be able to recall past experiences. So how do we know if someone is suffering from dementia? What is dementia at all? Dementia, we are saying that the loss of cognitive functioning, like thinking, remembering, reasoning, to such an extent that it interferes with a person's daily life. So we'll take our grandmothers, for example, or our grandfathers, our grandparents, or even our elderly mothers who are a bit older, say from 55 to 60. Usually, when dementia sets in their lives, their thinking becomes a bit shallow. They are unable to reason well. They are unable to remember some things. Sometimes you can even ask your mom, Mom, I told you something yesterday. Do you recall it? Your mom will tell you, no, I don't recall. Your mom will just place a cup on the deep freezer, and then she might turn the whole self around, the whole house looking for that same cup. These minor things is what we call dementia, because the people tend to suffer some kind of memory loss, some difficulty in thinking and reasoning. And what we are saying is that for you to be able to know that the person is suffering from dementia, then these things should cause significant problem in their lives. Because some people cannot control their emotions and then their personalities when they change during the dementia. Some people do. So if it has caused or it has interfered in his daily life, then we can concretely say that they are suffering from dementia. It ranges in severity from mild stage. So sometimes someone will be having dementia and then you might not even notice at all, especially in the beginning stages. It affects their function, and then to the most severe stages, that's the latter part of the condition, when the person must depend solely on others for basic activities like sometimes even eating, drinking, daily living activities, feeding oneself, bathing, etc. So these stages, as I mentioned earlier, start from the normal behavior where someone will be exhibiting the dementia, but it will not be noticeable among either the household, the friends, or loved ones. So the normal behavior stage, that's the early stage of dementia, where one may not show any symptoms, though there are changes in the brain. Some things are happening underground, but we will not be noticing it as we should or as the condition is. So you might think that the person is not suffering from anything at all. It can happen several years before the dementia itself or signs and symptoms appear. Then there's this stage of forgetfulness. So your mom comes from work. Your mom places the bag down and then she forgets where the bag is. Your mom even forgets that she has eaten. This usually is seen in our grandmothers because most of the time our parents are younger when we are aging. So you might be 20 years and your mother will be around 45 years. So usually we don't see this in them, but we usually see them in our grandmothers. And the sad thing is, some of these things I'm explaining, because we don't understand, most of the people tend to attribute these signs and symptoms to the evil spirit, to witchcraft and sorcery. So usually, and I'm saying usually, we the black folks will be tormenting our grandmothers. You see our parents tormenting our grandmothers with some of the behaviors they are exhibiting of dementia because of old age, because dementia is associated with old age. So usually it's the older people who usually suffer from this condition. And then your mom will be calling your grandmother by names. This one is a witch, this one is a wizard, this one is this, because of the symptoms your grandmother is exhibiting, which is dementia. So with forgetfulness, it happens in the early stages, part of the early signs of dementia, where people might forget things easily and constantly lose things around the house. So they place a car here and they can't find it. They place a pen, they place their keys, they place their car keys, chargers, minor things, which you assume shouldn't be messing around. So they receive a call. They receive a call and then they don't remember where they placed the phone, right in the house. And then we are saying that the memory loss can easily be distinguished from normal age-related memory deterioration. We are saying that because when people usually age, normally we forget things. Even we young ones do forget things. But with dementia, the forgetfulness is profound. So the person, the phone might be might be lying right beside the person, but the person will not recognize where the phone or the item is. So this is where we want to create the distinction. We want to distinguish this from the usual memory loss in old age, because the usual memory loss might not affect the person's daily functioning. Then we have the mild decline. As the progression of dementia worsens, one may begin to notice subtle changes and signs that something isn't quite right. They might frequently losing their purse, so they sit in a trotro and then they come home without a purse. They go to the market, they come home without the items. They'll be losing their keys, forgetting their appointments. This state can last up to seven years. So you see your grandmother starting to lose some of the items in the house. She goes out and then she doesn't bring the purse. Grandma, where's your purse? I don't remember sending my purse outside. No, grandmother, you went with your purse. Then it's got missing then. So these are the mild decline stage. These are the stages of dementia. This is the third stage, the mild decline stage. Then we go to the moderate decline. With this, the signs and symptoms become more clearer to everyone. Before then, with the normal behavior, forgetfulness, and mild decline, we will all be saying, oh, this is part of aging, this is part of this, oh, it's one of those things. We've lost the key and then we've taken another key, we lost the phone and then we've bought another phone. But with the moderate decline, you see that these things are happening or recurring. So today we've lost a phone. For the next 2 or 3 days, we've lost another phone. Then people will be getting the symptoms clearer. No, I think there's something happening to my mom. I think there's something happening to my dad. And the person may find it difficult to manage money or pay bills because of some of the underlying issues that we've discussed. The person will be mismanaging his accounts, buying things and forgetting that they've already bought those things. So you see that the accounts will be clearing slowly. They will be withdrawing money from the account, buying pairs. They've lost their pairs. We have to buy another pairs. And then they buy the pairs. They don't even remember they've bought a pairs already. So they will buy another pairs. They will buy an item, forgetting they already own that item in the house. They will buy again. So usually, I'll give you a typical example with our parents. Your parents or your mom, especially, your mom of about 55, 60 years, will go out and then they have these sellers who sell medication products in the trotros and the cars. And then you find your mom buying a particular product, say a diclofenac gel, which will be used for pains. And then your mom will go the next time, buy the same product, forgetting that she had already bought that product just a few days ago. And then sometimes we see these things too in our parents. Your mom or your parent or your grandmother will eat in the morning, will take their breakfast. And just a moment after, you ask them, have you eaten? And they don't even remember at all whether they've eaten something. So they will tell you, I've not eaten. And usually this thing happens when we have people staying with our grandparents, say a help. So you see your parents very furious with the helps because they think the helps are not taking good care of your grandparents. Because your grandparents have told your parents that the help is not giving them food to eat. For all you know, you might even meet your grandmother eating. And at the same time, your grandmother will tell you that I've not eaten the entire day or since yesterday. This shows us that the person is really suffering from dementia. And this is when the signs and symptoms become more clearer to everyone. So with this, a hospital visit with a mini mental examination by a doctor is likely to lead to a dementia diagnosis. When some of these symptoms recur or occur, and then you send your the clients, say your grandmother, your parents, or anybody, if you should send that person to the hospital, say a psychiatric hospital, and the doctor does a mini mental state, these symptoms will reveal to the doctor that the person is having dementia. The average length of this stage is around 2 years. Then we move on to the moderately severe decline. So we have the moderate decline and then moderately severe. So we are going into the severe parts of the condition, slowly going to the severity. Then with this one, we say that we may need more help with day-to-day living. So you find that at a point in time, I'm using our grandparents, I'll be using our grandparents as a reference. It's not solely our grandparents. Our parents also do that. But because of most of the people's age, I'll be using the term grandparents. So you see that your grandparents will now be unable to do or take care of their day-to-day activities, especially during this stage, while they can probably still take care of other personal needs on their own, like using the toilet. Sometimes they are able to bath, they're able to walk around. Sometimes so they are unable to walk, they can't converse well, they can't talk, they can't reason, they are unable to know how to pay their bills, how to even use the phone. So these are day-to-day living activities, which they tend to lose. How to use the phone, how to make a call. They'll be calling you. I can't find the numbers. Come and input the numbers for me. Come and add a contact for me. Come and do this. Something which they were or they used to do by themselves. So all other personal needs by themselves are unable to be done. Then they may find it difficult to dress appropriately. So you see that the combination of your parent or the clients suffering from dementia has changed. They have difficulty even wearing their dress. They can't make their way around the dress where the hand needs to be put, if it's a trousers, where the leg needs to be put. So you see them changing the dresses like a child will do. So they are unable to dress appropriately, or they are unable to remember simple facts about themselves. You ask your grandma, what's your name? And then they will tell you, I don't remember. Where were you born? I don't remember. I think I was born in, where? I don't know. Where was I born? Then the grandmother or your parents will throw the question back to you. So their address, their phone number, they tend not to remember all those things. Where they lived. Some people are able to remember remote memory or remote recall, remote events, like when they were born, where they were born, the primary school they attended. Some are able to remember that, but some too are unable to remember. It's vice versa. Some people are able to remember recent events, some are unable to do that. So they, however, usually recognize family and friends, like the children. So your grandmother or the person suffering from dementia in the moderately severe decline stage will be able to remember the sister's name or the sister, the close relative, the child, the father, the sisters, maybe some few friends around them. On average, this stage can last a period of, I think, 1.5 years or 1.5 years. We said that the moderately decline stage lasts for about 2 years, and this one is 1.5 years. Then we move on to the severe decline. In this stage, the person will need constant supervision at home, including washing of his clothes or her clothes, bathing, changing diapers. You see them soiling themselves. So unless you put them diapers, and then because they don't even remember how to even sit on the toilet, you have to put on diapers before they saw themselves. They can't change their dresses, you have to change for them. And then there's changes in their behavior. So you see that your grandmother or your grandfather tends to be quickly angered and then aggressive. Sometimes it happens with our parents. So from age 55 upwards, the least thing your mom is angry, the least thing your mom is aggressive, and the least thing he gets upset. They sometimes are unable to even cope with the caregiver, the primary caregiver. But we've noticed that even though they might be very confused, they often know, they still know and recognize the people closest to them. So they might remember the children, their children. And then if they have some close grandchildren who have lived with them, they're able to remember them, even in the severe decline stage. Then when we go to the very...
Let's talk about more solutions.
Yeah, another solution is
trying to sort
please,
The next point is the very severe decline. And this is the last stage in the dementia stage. Many people usually pass away before they reach the final stage of dementia because the condition itself starts from age 50 upwards. So by the time someone gets to very severe decline, they might be around 90 years or 90 plus. So usually most people pass away before they reach the final stage of dementia. And then it happens so because other health conditions might be playing other roles within the dementia stages where it deteriorates the person's physical strength. So they tend to lose their lives before they get to the very severe stages. But with the severe stage of dementia, there's severe decline or severe loss of speech. Your grandmother wouldn't be able to talk to you. She speaks and then you don't even hear unless you send your ears so close to the mouth, and it's vice versa. If you also want to talk to her, you have to go closer to her and then speak into the ears, because aging comes with deterioration of the physical strength and physical health. So they will sometimes be needing assistance with day-to-day living, feeding, toileting, and then they need around-the-clock care and support. At this stage, from the sixth stage or even from the fifth stage, that's from the moderately severe decline stage to the severe decline stage and very severe decline stage, most of the sufferers of dementia will need professional carers. Usually, they need professional, so you have to seek psychiatric care or geriatric care, and then you can see silent scream, and then they will get you other professional carers to help you with that. So we will talk about the causes or the types of dementia. In fact, the causes of dementia is almost similar to the types of dementia. That's why we've placed the causes and the types in the same bracket. Dementia usually is caused by changes in the brain. And changes in the brain occurs when we age, because dementia itself is a neurodegenerative condition. When we say degenerative, we are saying that the cells of the brain are unable to generate again, like the way our cells in the skin and other parts of the body can generate. So you get hurt, you get a cut in your skin, and then you see that your skin grows back and becomes intact. When you are young, the brain also goes through generative changes. So some of the cells wear off and new ones are replaced. With dementia, the cells wear off or the cells break down. The brain cells, break down, and then they are not replaced. So there's neurodegenerative changes or decline in the person. And this is mostly the main reason why people tend to have dementia. We have damage to the brain or changes in the brain. The common cause of dementia are as follows: Alzheimer's disease. And Alzheimer's disease is one of the most commonest of dementia. It starts progressively with mild memory loss and leads to possible loss of ability to carry out daily activities. So Alzheimer's is one of the most commonest cause of dementia. It starts with mild memory loss. So you see that your loved one will be losing some memories, will be losing some things, will not be remembering certain activities, certain events. That is Alzheimer's. And it's cuts across almost all the causes or types of dementia. The only thing is there are variations in the causes. So when we say Alzheimer's disease, Alzheimer's it happens mild progressive. The memory loss will be gradual. When we take the vascular dementia, it occurs in people who have long-term high blood pressure. And then there's severe hardening of the arteries or several small strokes. So people who have undergone multiple strokes, they've had stroke in their lives. Those people tend to also suffer from dementia. By then, they will term theirs as vascular dementia because of the resultant stroke or from happening from the blood vessels of the brain. And we are saying that strokes are the second most common cause of dementia because it affects the brain functioning. Then we have Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease also happens, it's insidious. It emerges slowly over weeks and months, where you see the person having some tremors. So with Parkinson's disease, it's also a brain disease, which happens slowly over time. From weeks to months, you see the person having some tremors. The hands will be shaking for some time. Then the person will be quite rigid after while the condition progresses. And then the slowness of movement and speed. So these are the three main things that happen in Parkinson's disease. And because Parkinson's disease itself affects the brain, you end up having dementia in the people who suffer from Parkinson's disease. So I'm saying that Alzheimer's is the common cause of dementia. It happens slowly over time. Vascular dementia is when there's a problem with the arteries or blood vessels that supply blood to the brain. This sometimes happens in stroke, and in so doing, people who suffer from stroke tend to also suffer from dementia over time, past the age. Then we have Parkinson's disease. It's also one of the commonest causes of dementia. It also happens slowly from weeks to months, where you see the person having some tremors, shaking, you see their head shaking. And a typical person who I can give a typical example is Muhammad Ali. If you've ever watched the videos of the latter ages of Muhammad Ali, you see him having this tremors of the hand and shaking. And because of that, he was unable to stand erect or stand upright. These are the causes of dementia. And we have dementia with Lewy bodies. Lewy bodies are protein deposits that surrounds the brain, and it causes problems with the brain functioning. In other words, cause dementia. It's same with the frontotemporal dementia. They are a group of disease that include the Pick's disease, and then they damage the neurons in the frontal and temporal lobes. The frontal lobe is here, and then the temporal lobe is here when you take the brain. So the front part of the brain, the temporal part, the side part of the brain is what it affects, and then it causes the dementia. And then the other cause of dementia is severe head injury. Severe head injury like boxing, wrestling. So I use Muhammad Ali as a typical example. So boxers usually also suffer from dementia a lot. And Muhammad Ali is a typical example of that. Then wrestling, because of the severe falls that they put themselves through. And then people who also suffer from severe fall from a height. So you see someone falling unknowingly, and then they might injure their head. With this, after a long time, when they age, because of the fall, because of the boxing, where there have been multiple hits into the head or into the brain, they will tend to be having symptoms of or exhibiting symptoms of dementia. Then what are the risk factors of dementia? We are saying that age contributes a lot to dementia because whilst we advance in our age, we tend to be losing memory, and then it affects or it also cause us to have dementia. And then we are saying that dementia also runs in families. There are some families who have dementia. So with that, by age 50, 55, you see the person starting exhibiting symptoms of dementia. We've discovered that the number of genes that increase the risk of developing Alzheimer's disease, research have discovered a number of genes that increase the risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. And some of these genes runs in the family. So if your mom was carrying that genes, which can cause Alzheimer's, the probability of you, the son, the daughter, also having Alzheimer's disease that will cause dementia is very high. And we are saying that although people with family history of Alzheimer's disease are generally considered to be at a heightened risk, people whose family, we are saying that even though the condition runs in the family, it's not necessarily so, or it's not ultimately so. You can also come from a family who doesn't have history of dementia, and you can also have dementia. But one thing is, abnormal genes are also clearly implicated as risk factors. So people who have Huntington's disease, other kinds of conditions like Mongols disorders or Mongolism tend to also suffer from dementia when they age. So the people with Down syndrome, they sometimes show this neurological and behavioral signs of Alzheimer's disease by the time they reach middle age. So those, I don't know whether you know the Down syndrome people. The Down syndrome people are the children or the people who have similar faces, those Mongol faces. Their faces are very round, and then they are unable to do things for themselves. So those people also tend to show signs of Alzheimer's disease by the time they age. And then smoking and alcohol use. Usually when you tell people to quit smoking, to cut down on the alcohol use, they will tell you, the doctors will tell you, the doctors have been telling us to take some kind of wine, some kind of alcohol beverage for our health. But many research have found out that smoking and alcohol use cause or is implicated in the cause of dementia, because smoking increases the risk of mental decline, and then smoking itself also hardens the blood vessels of the brain. People who smoke have higher risk of atherosclerosis, where there's fat deposits or there's deposits in the blood vessels, which is a type of vascular disease. And we know that we have vascular dementia. So in other words, when you smoke, the smoking will cause problems in the blood vessels of the brain, and then it will increase your risk of getting dementia. And we've also known that, or we've seen that drinking large amounts of alcohol appears to also increase the risk of dementia. People who usually drink a lot, they tend to forget a lot. And because of the forgetfulness, they tend to misbehave also a lot. So drinking will cause problems in the brain, and then in so doing, that will affect someone or cause someone to suffer from dementia. Then we mentioned atherosclerosis, where there are fat deposits or plaques in the blood vessels. And it's also results from high cholesterol use, and then this cholesterol or fat deposit decreases the inner lining of the artery or the blood vessel. So there's less blood sent to the brain. And this is where the problem comes. When there's less blood to the brain, people tend to suffer from stroke. And when you suffer from stroke, the probability of you also having dementia in the older stages of your life is very high. So we have cholesterol, high level of low density lipoprotein, also called bad form of cholesterol, appear to significantly increase persons' risk of developing vascular dementia. I think this goes hand in hand with atherosclerosis. When you consume high levels of cholesterol, this cholesterol collects and then becomes fat deposits in the blood vessels, and it will be blocking the blood vessels to be able to carry blood to the brain. Then diabetes. Diabetes has been a risk factor for both Alzheimer's and vascular, because diabetes is a cause of stroke. That's one thing. When there's higher levels of sugar, it affects our system, and then it will be causing atherosclerosis, and then at the end of the day, people who have diabetes almost always suffer from stroke because of diabetes moving hand in hand with high blood pressure, which is another cause of stroke. Then there's mild cognitive impairment. So people who have mild cognitive impairment tend to suffer from dementia. And we've mentioned that in our previous slide, where people with Down syndrome, Klinefelter syndrome, other conditions where they are unable to have better cognitive structures, or they have mild cognitive impairment, tend to suffer from dementia. So those people where we call them Mongols, most of them tend to suffer from dementia. We have Klinefelter syndrome and then other conditions. So we are saying that one study found out that approximately 40% of people over age 65 who were diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment developed dementia within 3 years. So there are some people whose cognition tend to decrease over time. Sometimes they are not suffering from even Down syndrome, whatever. But with time, a doctor has ever diagnosed them of having some mild cognitive impairment. They are unable to think logically, think critically. They tend to forget things sometimes. Those people, the probability of they being at risk of having or suffering from dementia is very high. That's why we've placed them under the risk factors. Then how do we diagnose dementia? How do you know that someone is suffering from dementia? Usually, doctors or psychiatrists, neurologists are able to diagnose someone from suffering from dementia. Psychiatric nurses can also do that equally. They will be asking questions about the patient's past medical history, and then they will do some physical exams, some mental state exams, and then they also request some labs or imaging tests. So we'll take the patient history. The patient history will include drug history, medical history, family history. Do you have any parents ever suffering from what you are suffering? Have you ever had any parents or any relative also losing memory, tending to forget things? The doctors will be asking you. So it's based upon these things that the doctor will know that, oh, okay, this person is at risk of having dementia. And then your signs and symptoms that you present. So I've been forgetting things for the past 2 months, 3 months. Lately, some of the symptoms that the people will present to the doctor will let the doctor be able to affirm or make a clinical diagnosis of dementia. So the physical examination will include aging, the general health or fitness. So you look at the person's age, the person around 55, 60, and the person might be exhibiting some of these symptoms. Then you can clearly know that the person is slowly coming into the system of dementia. Then we have cognitive and neuropsychological tests like mini mental. So we'll do some of these tests for the person to know that someone is suffering from dementia. So there's this mini mental state exams where we check the appearance, the speech of the person, the mood, the thought content, thought process, the judgment, and all that. These all fall under the mini mental state exams. It's about 10 to 15, lasts about 10 to 15 minutes, and it's scored out of 30. And we are saying that a score below 24 suggests dementia. So we can sometimes tell the client to draw a clock. There's a test. We set the time at 10 past 11 to evaluate his organization and then the planning. Then laboratory tests can also be done to be able to help diagnose dementia. And then we have this CT scan, MRI scans, fMRI scans, the SPECT and the PET scans, which a doctor can request for us to know the level of or the side of the brain where the dementia is more profound. And we are also saying that we can also do other tests after the person dies. There's an autopsy that can be carried out to find out for sure what really caused the dementia, whether it's vascular dementia, Alzheimer's, phototemporal, and it will be helpful for the family members who are concerned about their genetic causes. So some of the family members might want to know if indeed, if my father suffered from dementia and then my father is dead, I want you guys to carry out an autopsy to review whether the dementia is genetic, whether I can also suffer from dementia. So some of these tests can be done. An autopsy can be requested by the family members. And then what are the signs and symptoms that will help us who are in the house to know that a loved one is suffering from dementia? So we've grouped these things into heading, very, very simple ones, like the cognitive symptoms. So you see your grandmother, you see your parents, your aunt who is quite old, you see the person exhibiting some kind of mental confusion. And this is where my main concern is. So you see someone having mental confusion, especially in the evening hours. Then they will be disoriented. They don't know what time it is, whether it's in the evening, are we in the evening, are we in the morning, are we in the afternoon? Then they'll be having difficulty speaking or understanding language and expressing thoughts or reading or writing. So you give a pen to the person is unable to write, is unable to even understand the language you are speaking. They'll be asking you, what did you say? What are you saying? What did you say? I don't understand. Can you, to some extent, sometimes we have to even write to them for them to read. Sometimes they're unable to also read. That's where the person has be in the severe or moderate severe stage. Then they start to make things up. And this is where our parents don't sometimes understand our grandmothers, and then they will tell them, you are a witch, you are a wizard, because your grandmother will be making some things up. You did this. They will be showing some behaviors, some weird behaviors in the house that is not understanding to the layman. And then they are inability to recognize common things. So what is this? This is a dress. They can't even tell you what this is. They sometimes use unusual words to refer to similar familiar objects, just like children do. Children of 1 to 2 or 3 years do. They tend to use other objects to represent some things. And one thing we've realized with dementia is that the people who suffer from dementia tend to exhibit behaviors like children. They experience memory loss, poor judgment, and then confusion. Behaviorally, they become very, very irritable. The least thing, they are irritated. They are restless. They wander a lot, and usually they get lost in familiar neighborhoods. So I'm still using a certain as a typical example, where people will tend to be mentioning names, calling people wizards and witches, because your grandmother will go out or your mom will go out from the house just on the next street, sometimes even just at the gate, and they are unable to find their way back. You see them wandering about and people calling them sort of names. This is because of the dementia. That's why they tend to be suffering from those kind of things. Then they tend to lose their restraint. They lack restraint. And then they lose interest in normal daily activities. So things that used to be very fun to them, at a point in time, they don't enjoy it again. So they tend to maybe go to the movies, they go to the sports, the club. It gets to a time they don't find pleasure in those things again. They don't care about other people's feelings, so they just blurt out anything they want to say. They act impulsively. So they want this, and that's a particular thing they want to. They want to eat fufu. No matter what you say, they will eat the fufu. Whether it's not time for the fufu, it's not appropriate to eat fufu, they will eat fufu. So you see them renting houses and then violating all the rules in the houses. They lack restraint and then they act impulsively. They repeat questions because they can't hear. They can't hear enough. And they have trouble handling money. So usually at that stage, it is required of a caregiver or a relative to handle their finances, especially their bills and all that. And then in terms of their mood, they become lonely, they become anxious, their mood swings from happiness to sadness more often. They become nervous. And then with the muscles, they tend to lose their gait, especially when you take the Parkinson's disease. You see them having more tremors, slowness in movement, and unsteady gait. They can't maintain a good posture. They sometimes even fall. They have sleep disorders, and then they take longer time to complete normal daily tasks. Then they also tend to hallucinate a lot. They'll be hearing voices, and then they'll have these paranoid delusions, and then they become very depressed. That's psychologically. So our management will be tailored around the signs and symptoms, because when you know that your loved one will wander about in the house, or sorry, in the area and lose track back home, then protection and modifying the environment becomes a very key factor. So you have to reduce clutter and noise, which can make it easier for someone with dementia to focus and function. So we nest them in a serene, calm environment. And usually we can do these things. This management is tailored for us in the house, not necessarily the hospital environment. So you can reduce the noise in the house, the noise in the surrounding, for them to focus on one particular, on certain task, and then function well in the house. And we have to remove all injurious objects that can threaten their safety, like sharps, knives, broken bottles, broken glasses. These are things that we have to be able to take out of their environment. And then if we are staying in story buildings, it is also advisable that we bring them to the ground floor so that they don't skate from the steps, other than they might fall and then injure themselves. Then we can also add monitoring systems like these current CCTV cameras to monitor their behaviors in the house, so that if you have a grandmother who wanders about a lot, you can place a camera or a monitoring system at the gate or the entrance. In case they go out, you can just track their movement right from the gate to wherever they passed. Then we have to keep the floors dry to prevent fall. We have to remove ties from beneath the chairs. So we have certain chairs or sofas which have ties, and we almost, because of their protection, we want to create an environment where falling will be removed. So remove the ties from beneath the sofas to prevent skidding, so that they don't fall. And then we have to observe them. We observe for changes in their mood. We made mention of their mood changes from happiness to sadness. And then you have to observe their sleep patterns, because they need good sleep, good night's sleep. And then their eating habits, because they don't sleep well, they don't eat well. Sometimes they are unable to feed themselves. So we have to check or monitor their eating habits. And then also observe for hallucinations and delusional thinking, where they will tell you, I can see someone standing there whilst the caregiver doesn't see that person. So all these things are observations that we have to make to help them nurse them well in the house. Then you have to observe for progress or decline in their condition. So at first, your grandmother used to forget some few things. At a point in time, is forgetting almost everything you tell them. So these are observations that you can make, so that when you visit the hospital, you can tell the doctor all about that. Then you have to simplify their task. We break their task into easier steps and focus on success, not failure. So your grandmother was unable to write. Now you've made it possible for her to write. She was unable to eat by herself. And at a point in time, she's been picking up slowly. So we have to simplify those tasks. Maybe today is just trying to do eating, not combining multiple tasks. So just break those tasks into easier steps. Today we'll just be doing eating and then drinking. That's all. Today we'll just be doing wearing of shirts. The next day we'll do wearing of diapers. Then we structure clients' tasks into daily routine to help reduce confusion. That's, I think I mentioned that in my explanation. So you just simplify those tasks into daily routines. Today, we're just going to wash a cloth. Today, we are just going to wear a cloth. Today, we are just going to draw a clock. Some of those things. And then you have to engage in activities. You plan activities the client enjoys and can do. You don't plan activities they can't do. If someone was a hairdresser, you plan the activities tailored around hairdressing, not sewing. So dancing, painting, gardening, these are simple tasks that everybody can do. Cooking, singing, other activities can be fun. And other activities that is quite basic can be drawn for the person to engage in and then have fun. It also helps them to connect with their loved ones and then help their loved ones also focus on what the skills the client can do. They want to enhance communication. So with the enhancement of communication, usually when people age, you have to talk right in front of them. You have to face them when you are talking so that they can read your lips and understand what you are saying. So you have to maintain good eye contact when you are speaking with them. Then you talk slowly, not so fast, in simple sentences, because this is a brain disorder. So sometimes their understanding of what you are saying is different from what you are even saying. You don't rush the response. You present one idea or instruction at a time. You use gestures and cues, such as pointing to objects. Okay, I want you to go and pick this ball for me. You point the ball. You don't just say, go and pick the ball for me with your mouth. Because at that stage in life, everything about them is like about training a child, how we train a toddler to be able to learn new skills. So that's exactly how you move with them. Then we encourage exercises. So we want to improve their strength and balance, and then their cardiovascular health. Then also to reduce the restlessness that they might be having during the day. So evidence also shows that the exercise protects the brain from dementia, especially when combined with other healthy diets and treatments. Then there's good rest and sleep. We have to establish a nighttime ritual. So the behavior is often worse at night, usually, because when it's at night, they sometimes get up, open the doors, and go out, and they are unable to find their way back. So the behavior of a demented client is usually often worse at night. So you have to establish some bedtime rituals that are calming and away from noise or television. So you have to leave the night light on. So you find a light that is quite dim, where the client will see the surroundings when they wake up. So they wake up, they want to pass urine, and then the light is out. They will be quite nervous. So you get some ambient lights in the room, the hall, to prevent disorientation, to prevent falling, and to prevent confusion. And if you're a caregiver who sleeps with the client in the room, in one room, then we are saying that the caregiver must lock the bedroom at night and remove the key. This is so to prevent them from going out and wandering about. Then you have to limit caffeine use and discourage daytime napping. When we say discourage daytime napping, usually when clients sleep during the day, they find it difficult sleeping at night. And then you offer some exercises during the day to help them sleep at night. You keep a calendar for them, and then you plan for the future. You develop a plan with your loved one on how he or she is able to participate and identify some of those goals for future care. So you get some support groups, some legal advisors, family members, and others who might be helpful. And then they plan for what the client needs to do. Maybe the client has a will that needs to be presented. We can help. The legal advisors can come in and then help. And then support group. Support group is when we find similar people who share similar age and then similar experiences with your loved one. Then they come together and then they share certain ideas, they play along, and other family members who can also equally help. So the following other therapies that can help, like music therapy, light exercise, not so profound exercise, but light one, watching videos, Some people even engage in pet therapies. They bring the cats to the house. Some people have pets in the house. So you'll be seeing our grandmothers petting them about and then finding some useful things from maybe a visit from a dog. The whites usually do this, but the blacks, I think most houses or households have cats. So you see our grandparents almost always playing with the cat, feeding them. These are other therapies that usually help with demented people. Then we have aromatherapy. It uses fragrant plant oils. It soothes them. These are just the benefits of those therapies. The massage therapies, these are not treatments. They are just therapies to help the client. So art therapy, you can engage your grandmother in drawings, creating arts. You focus on the process, not the outcome. You just want to know whether he will be able to draw something, not necessarily trying to ensure that he draws the thing well. No, we just want to know whether he will be able to draw it. So I want us to know that our understanding of dementia is remembering that the person living with dementia no longer really understands what is happening. This is what I want us to understand. They don't know what is happening. It's just like a toddler. They don't know that the symptoms they are exhibiting is troubling the family members. They don't even know that the symptoms are even troubling themselves because it's really troubling. So they don't understand what is happening. So it is rest upon us, the loved ones, to show much care. And I stated it earlier on that it is this that we fall short as Africans. We rather tend to attribute witchcraft and sorcery to some of these behaviors when our grandparents start to exhibit them. So if some of all these things I've said, all this behavior is typical of a relative of yours, and then you are looking for a support, I think you have the right, you've come to the right place. You talk to the Silent Screen Foundation today, and then they are more than happy to listen and take you through things with you. So that draws the curtains to dementia and its management. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Richard. So for now, we'll start to take any questions or comments to facilitate discussion about the talk we just heard. And there's a comment in the chat. The person said, many elderly women have been abused due to this unfortunate lack of information. I wonder if the men affected by this condition are also accused of being wizards. So I think it's not a question, more of a quick comment.
Yes. Usually some communities that we visited the community in the Eastern region back in 2010. And then they also had people, they were attributing certain things to some of the older men who they believed to be wizards because of the behaviors where they were exhibiting. They were exhibiting these typical demented behaviors. And then they thought they were wizards because most of the ones we saw were more than 90 years. And then the community was having the thought that at 90 plus years, they should die. And they were not dying. They were just wondering about, they take them home, and then with the next few moments, they've left the house and they were wondering about, they can't find their way back home. So it's not always the case for the women. Some communities also attribute some of these behaviors to wizardry and then to the men.
Yeah, hello.
Hi.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, please, in your presentation,
yes, please.
I heard you say dementia can be hereditary. Now, if that is so, is there any way a son or daughter that the mom or dad has a dementia at the end of the day? Is there any way they can prevent, or there are some measures they can take such that they will not at the end of the day. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for the question. But sadly, dementia can't be prevented. It can't be prevented. It just can be managed. So if your parents had it, the probability of you also having it is high. The only thing is we have certain lifestyle. We mentioned the risk factors. So some of these risk factors are the things that the person will have to sit down and go through and not go into it, like the smoking and alcohol use, then the high cholesterol use, high sugar intake, and then you have to maintain good body weight. You have to get enough sleep. You have to cut down on your cholesterol level. You have to manage your blood glucose. You have to stop excessive drinking. You have to maintain your body weight, and then you have to get enough sleep. So these are the things that someone can do to reduce the time of having or suffering from the dementia. The dementia will by all means come, but if you should go through this or you should do this, observe this, then the time that you'll be suffering from your dementia will be pushed back. So if your mom or say your dad suffered from dementia at around 50 years, yours will come around 65 or 70 years. But if it's hereditary, then the probability of you suffering from it is very high. I'm using the word probability because it's not almost always the case. But research has almost always found out that if a relative suffers from a psychiatric condition, the probability of the closest relative also getting it is very high. So we just need to do this management. We need to manage ourselves well with the sugar intake, the cholesterol intake, the smoking, the drinking, maintaining our body and having a good sleep.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Richard. So there's a comment in the chat and then there's a question. So the comment is saying, it's very difficult to take care of such family. They need someone to be home with them all the time. In the instance you look away for 1 second, the person leaves the house and you are blamed. And then the question is, can dementia lead to madness? And also, is it possible to permanently cure it?
Okay, so thank you for the question once again. Usually with our setting, we don't use the word madness. We use mental illness. So I just want to plead with my listeners and participants to try as much as possible to be using mental illness when as we go along. Usually the behaviors of demented clients, it fits in the psychiatric illness category. I don't know whether the person really understands me. So all these symptoms I mentioned is a brain disorder, and it's being a brain disorder pushes it to be a psychiatric condition or a mental health condition. So we take dementia as part of our disorders in psychiatry to manage. So it's a mental illness, not madness. So it's a form of mental illness already. Dementia is a form of mental illness already. And then we can't cure it. That is for a fact, because it's progressive, it's chronic. It starts slowly. So you sometimes see some of your parents, some of your grandparents, especially the ones who used to drink a lot, when they get to some age, if they should suffer from Parkinson's disease, it starts slowly with tremors. You see their head movement slowly. It's very, very slow. Sometimes you might not take note. It's very, very slow. If you want to see it, you have to give them a sheet of paper, maybe a broomstick for them to hold. And you see how pounding it shakes with their hands. And then you see their head also shaking slowly. they have some kind of rigidity. This usually happens with heavy drinkers who suffer from dementia. They tend to suffer from Parkinsonism, and then it turns out to be dementia afterwards. So dementia is a mental illness, and then it can't be cured. That is my answer.
Okay, there's another question. I think the person didn't finish typing the question, but what we have so far, the person said, how do you take care of them? How do you take care of them without treating them like, I think the person's trying to ask, how do you take care of the patients without treating the patient like a child, especially if you become frustrated? And the person said, but then the person didn't finish. So I think probably got cut off also.
So the management is, in fact, the management is simple and also tedious. It is tedious to the people who have to stay with their clients for all day. I just wanted to create, to juxtapose the child outbringing to that of taking care of an elderly person. You see, you take care of a toddler of maybe 0 to 3 years, or 0 to 2 years, or 0 to 1.5. The child doesn't speak. The child doesn't do anything. They are just with you, and then you provide everything. So I was using that as a typical example of trying to take care of a demented client or an older person. Even if the person is not demented and they are older, they are unable to do majority of the things for themselves. So they tend to be like children. That was just an explanation too. I just wanted people to understand it that way, that you shouldn't expect much from that person, just like you would expect from a normal person who is well-to-do or who is physically well and psychologically well. You can't expect that from a demented client. That is what the person needs to understand, that you are taking the total care of the person. So you don't expect them to go or to know that they have to bath at 6, bath at 7, bath at 8. No, you have to do that. You have to take them to the toilet as often as possible so that they don't soil themselves. So you have to program those things. In the morning, you put them on the water closet. Maybe if they've eaten enough, you have to put them back in the afternoon or maybe in the evening. These are the care that we give to them. And I think these are similar things that we do for the children. So we shouldn't expect that they will know what to do. That's why they need a primary caregiver. The primary caregivers are there from morning to evening to the next day, like that. If the family members are unable to do, we have professional caregivers that they have to seek. And I made mention in, I think in my last submission, that Silent Scream is there for them to talk to if they need professional caregivers. Because usually it's difficult for people to nurse them by themselves.
Okay, I think the person who started asking that question completed it. The person said, my auntie will walk to the market and other places multiple times a day. You want to shout in frustration, though it's not respectful. Then there's another question. Could most of mental illnesses be as a result of dementia?
No. So we have a criteria. The criteria for dementia is with the age. We have age as a criteria. So dementia starts from 55 and above, sometimes from 65 and above. And we have the symptoms that a person should present for us to understand or be able to diagnose the person as suffering from dementia. So we can't combine all the mental conditions or mental illnesses and say that they are all dementia. No.
Okay,
Have I answered this question? If I have, the person wanted to know that all other mental illnesses are dementia. And I'm saying that no, we can't combine, we can't call all the other conditions as dementia because dementia has its own criteria. Age is one, age is one, memory, thinking, and an inability to perform daily tasks by themselves. So these are the four main criteria that we've been using.
Yeah. Okay. We don't have any question in the chat now, but a few people have unmuted their mics. I don't know if maybe they want to ask a question. Please, you can go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, sir. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, sir.
Yeah, I'm Deepak Gbenru. Quite interestingly, I've been a benefactor of your training and your presentation at all times. And in fact, I have to commend you very well. It's quite educative, rich, and medical at confident level. I sincerely appreciate it. It's been very rich, honestly. Yes. But my contribution today, my submissions today has to do by way of contributing to this dementia topic that you have dealt with today. It's very, very interesting and quite rich. And I'm happy at the end of the day that you mentioned Alzheimer. I also noted some of your healthy dietary tips and exercises that you prefer and recommend when you are tackling it. And part of what you mentioned again has to do with Parkinson's disease. But my inquiries has to be focused on Alzheimer. And correct me if my pronunciation is wrong, but I know you must have understood Alzheimer. Thank you very much. Now, part of your recommendation was exercise, but I need to clarify because I have so many medical researchers whom we relate on one-on-one basis, and one of his recommendations, which I found useful, and I recommended it to a man of 72 years of age, who has shown some signs and symptoms of dementia, loss of memory, hypertension, and all those stuff. So I recommended it for him, and interestingly, he found it very useful. So I need to confirm from you whether you are aware of it too. It has to do with exercise on tongues exercise, our tongue exercise. They said you will stretch out in the morning, you stretch out your tongue. Then you move your tongue to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right for about 10 consecutive times. That one takes very good care of arising symptoms of dementia or Alzheimer's. So I recommended for him, he did it, and his doctor confirmed again that it has really worked. He has his hand shaking and everything, but it's gone. So I want to confirm whether you are aware of it and shed more light on that. Thank you.
Thank you too. In fact, personally, I'm not aware of that, but as you've said it, I'll try my hands on that. I'll do more research on that and see if it is there and it really works. Some of these things with medicine, every day there's new treatment, there's new things. So it could be that it's one of the newer things that people are also trying their hands on. Because with my submission, I didn't bring medications because I've noticed that our problem with dementia is not the medication, especially with the Black people. Our problem is with the management, how we will help the person with dementia to survive. But I'll note down your points and then I'll do more research on that.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you too.
There's a comment here. The person said, level of awareness of mental illnesses is very low in the society, and there is need for improvements in this area.
Yes, in fact, mental illness, the level of awareness of mental illness has been very low, especially in our part of the world. Even when you go to the developed worlds, they are equally suffering from level of awareness. But ours is in fact quite worse. And then the problem is with the people. The people are not willing to listen to how mental illness operates or how it works, or how it affects our daily lives. They don't see mental illness as a problem in the society. They see malaria, hypertension, diabetes as a problem. Because they don't understand how the brain operates, they don't see mental illness as a problem. And that's our major challenge. If we tend to see it as the major problem, then people will come on board and be helping out, and then be more curious to know what could be done. But because they don't understand, they especially in Africa, we attribute some of these things to religion and then spiritism. So it's quite difficult to explain to them that the organ as a brain is the problem and its functioning is causing some of these symptoms. So I think it will take time. It will take much time. I mean, that's why we commend Silent Scream for some of these things that they do. They help people to understand psychiatric illness, and then they're able to listen to some talks like this to go about their lives and then also share with other people.
Sorry, Mr. Moderator. My name is Kola Aziz. Thank you for the presentation. Though I joined late, but I was able to, gather some relevant information. Once again, I really, enjoy your presentation. Now, I'm actually the one, that dropped that message, this issue of awareness. You rightly pointed out that, especially in the Africa, our level of education, the level of creating awareness is very low. It's only when we are gathered in this kind of forum. Now, we have institutions, we have NGOs. Is there no way by which we can channel this kind of, awareness, so that at the tertiary institutions, people will be, well enlightened, that this is what leads to this is what leads to this. So that by the time all these children, of course, they have grandmother, they have grannies, if they are well informed, I mean, the kind of trauma, I'm sorry to use that word, because of Africa, the way we normally, believe that, just like you mentioned in your early, presentation, witchcraft, this and that, if the level of awareness is increased to the barest minimum, it will save us a lot. So I'm just thinking aloud that this kind of forum, why don't we channel through NGOs, tertiary institutions, so that we can, educate our people in the society? That's my own observation. Once again, I really enjoy your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you too. So I think Silent Scream has been doing their bit. In fact, they are doing a lot, because it's not easy organizing Zoom meetings, being on time and all that. And I think they are doing more other things as well. So as you rightly said, sometimes people organize symposiums, debates, and other things in the universities, in the colleges, in the junior high and the senior high schools. And then it's for about maybe an hour or so, just like we do on the Zoom meeting. They talk to the participants, and then they teach them about certain psychiatric illnesses, lifestyles, and all that. We also have community psychiatric teams in almost every part of Ghana who usually go to the schools, the churches. Sometimes because of logistics or logistical reasons, they are a little bad from doing the bigger things that they have to do. So I have to also say that some of these measures are already in place, like the community psychiatric workers who usually go to the schools, the high schools, the junior high schools, the primary schools, the churches, the organizations. They organize some of these things for them. And I think it's once every week or once a month. Yes. So people have been, but as you said, it's not enough. We should have more people on board because mental illness is very, very broad and very, very big. It's in depth. So we need more hands on deck. I think that is what will really help us in moving forward.
Thank you. Yes, we also want to share that apart from these online trainings, we are also working on running some physical trainings for not only schools, but corporate institutions as well. And then other organizations are also doing this work so that we can spread the message. So more people are taking up this course, so we shouldn't be discouraged. And if you want to contribute in any way, can visit our website, can contact us, and then can find out where you can also fit in this. So someone is asking, what proportion of humans will usually develop dementia in their lifetime? And there's another private comment. The person said that, how do you handle anxiety about developing this disorder if a lot of your family members have had it?
Okay, so usually people need to lower their anxiety, especially because dementia happens it usually starts, we have early onset and late onset. With early onset, people usually tend to suffer from, I think, about 40, 45 years upwards. And at the late onset, we have the 65 years and above. So usually, what we said was that the fact that some of the relatives have it doesn't mean that all the relatives will have it. That is one point. The fact that your mom had it doesn't necessarily mean that you will have it. But I use the word probability. The probability that you can, these are the two words, the probability that you can have it is high because your mother had it. So with anxiety levels can increase, but this is a condition that happens later in our ages. It's an old age condition. So it shouldn't be something that is so panicking. So I would like to allay her anxieties and fears. And it doesn't almost always get worsen like that. If you get the right management, we have people who have dementia and then you won't even notice it. That is why you need professional help from the hospital, Silent Scream and others. They will sit you down, they will counsel you what you have to do. These are the things, these are the trend in your family. Your mom had it, your father had it, your elder sister who is about 60 years had it, and you are now 35 or 40 years. So let's see. So you can do this, you can do that, you will balance the lifestyle, and then it will help a lot. So please allay your anxiety and allay your fears.
Yes. The person followed up. I think the person followed up while you were talking. The person said that sometimes when I visit my grandmother, she mistakes me for my auntie, who is her last daughter. And when I try to correct her, I can see that she becomes distressed and panicked. In the instance that the person mistakes mistakes you for someone else, should you just follow along or correct the person?
Okay, so we've had critical or certain instances. Those were researches. People wanted to correct the demented clients as to say, there's one particular video that was trending on YouTube. The lady wanted to tell the father that she is the daughter, and the father was saying, I don't remember you, I don't know you. So he called the father daddy. He usually call him daddy. And then the father told her, I'm not your daddy. I don't know you. I'm not the one who gave birth to you. So don't call me daddy. Call me by this. So the man mentioned his name. And then the daughter started calling the name that the man wanted her to call him with. Because it's so that way because the person is unable to remember whatever you are trying to tell them. So you can only just play along. I made mention that sometimes they are able to have remote recall or past recall. So they're able to remember their children, but they can't remember their grandchildren. So the memory that they had up to a point in time is what gets stuck with them. So you can't teach them new things. So if you can't teach them new things, you just go along with what they know. You can only try to improve them, but you don't force it on them by trying to let them know that, no, I'm not your daughter, I'm your this, I'm your this. You can be doing that thing frequently, but it shouldn't be a force on them. Grandma, this is Ruth, so call me Ruth. No. So you can just try to bring up or kicking up their memory. Oh, grandma, do you know your daughter Esther? Your daughter Esther is your second born. And your second born Esther also gave birth to Ruth. Do you remember Ruth? I am Ruth. You can go according to that line. But if you just say I'm Ruth, then it's very difficult for her to understand. You almost always have to start from somewhere, like a trend, a generational trend, something. So you have to explain things better. Then gradually. So today you say it, tomorrow you have to say it. You have to repeat some of these things for it to get stuck. Because the memory itself deteriorates over time. The memory itself, the memory loss deteriorates over time. So it's difficult teaching them new things. Please, was that the only question? Or maybe I have to, I don't know whether it was two questions. I've answered one.
Yes, I think that was I think the other one was what proportion of humans will usually develop dementia in their lifetime?
Yes, with the prevalence, in fact, I don't really have the statistics of the prevalence. Yes, because I have to check on that because I didn't take the prevalence into consideration when I was preparing the notes. So I'll have to check on the prevalence rate. Let me check the prevalence.
Yeah, I think that was the last question. I'm not seeing any other questions or any hands raised.
So the key fact is that they are saying about 55 million people have dementia worldwide. 55 million people. That's over 50, about 60% live in low and middle income countries. So that's the prevalence rate. About 55 million people have dementia. That's worldwide. And the majority of them live in the low income and the middle income countries. Yes.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any other question or comments.
I dropped a message. I don't
Okay.
know whether you.
Is there someone?
Yes, I dropped
Oh,
the
okay.
message. Probably has not, dropped. I said, is it possible if the presenter to share this slide either through WhatsApp or where can we get it? Thank you.
Oh, okay. Yes. So, Mr. Richard has shared the slide with us. So, we can share it through the WhatsApp. And we're also recording the session. So we'll also have it up on our YouTube channel. So that those who are not able to join us or those who want to revisit. So we'll drop the links to all of those in the chats. Okay. I think so far we are not getting any other questions. So we're a little beyond time. So just to keep everybody's time commitments in mind, we are going to wrap up now. And want to thank everybody once again for joining us. I want to remind you where you can find us and our work. So you can find our website, silentscreamfoundation.org, silentscreamfoundation.org. We post information about what we do, how you can contact us. If you need any access to a mental health care professional or a counselor, you need to talk to someone, you can reach us through the website, and then we'll connect you to professionals such as Mr. Richard. If you just need a shoulder to cry on to, we have counselors who will listen to you, help you. So if that's something, if you're going through anything, you need our help, kindly don't hesitate to reach out to us through our website. Our contact information is there. And we're also available on platforms such as Facebook, LinkedIn, all those places. We are also Silent Scream Foundation. So you can find us there. We post information about upcoming events. We host monthly awareness training sessions like this. So you can join us, you can let others know and also join us. We sometimes also host mutual sessions where people just come. There's no presenter, you just talk about whatever you're going to and discuss amongst other like-minded people. So you can also join us for such sessions. We are also planning physical trainings. So apart from the Zoom, we want to do trainings in schools and for corporate entities. We are a nonprofit, so all of those will be made as accessible and free as possible. So if you want to help us, if you want to fit in any of those ways, you want to contribute to this movement, you can also contact us and find out how you can contribute. I want to thank Mr. Richard once again for giving us your time and your expertise. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for this very informative session. Everybody who is joining us today, we want to thank you for giving us this part of your Sunday morning, for listening and for contributing. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for supporting our work. And we'll see you next month.
You're welcome. You're welcome.